The English county of Northumberland is well known for its castles, with each having its own fascinating history and stories surrounding them. Among them is Alnwick Castle, home of the Percy family, who are the traditional holders of the dukedom of Northumberland. The castle's construction began following the Norman conquest, with the first parts being erected in 1096, while its first written mention came in 1136, when it was captured by King David I of Scotland. The castle would be besieged numerous times during the conflicts between England and its northern neighbor. The long bloody history created by these conflicts has created many stories, which may have led to its inclusion in many films, such as 1991's Robin Hood, the Prince of Thieves, and the first two installments of the Harry Potter series. Today, however, we will be examining one particular story, the legend of the Alnwick Castle vampire. The first known mention of the story comes from the 12th century English historian and Augustinian canon William of Newbury. In his work Historia Rerum Anglicarum, the writer covered the history up until that point of the castle, but also inserted aspects of local folklore in order to increase the entertainment value of his work. One local legend surrounding the castle deals with a malicious entity bearing characteristics similar to a vampire who would terrorize local residents. Although it is not exactly clear how the local legends arose, William's account seems to point to it being well established only a century after the castle's construction. In his writing, he says, "It would not be easy to believe that the corpses of the dead should sally, I know not by what agency, from their graves, and should wander about to the terror and destruction of the living, and again return to the tomb, which of its own accord spontaneously opened to receive them. Did not frequent examples occurring in our own time suffice to establish this fact, to the truth of which there is abundant testimony?" Although various versions of the story can be found, in William's accounts the creature was in fact the spirit of a retainer of the local lord. In life, the man had attained a less than positive image among those who knew him, although the story is unclear as to why he was unpopular. However, one version of the story seems to hint at him being involved in an affair, as well as possibly even being a jealous husband with a penchant for domestic abuse. This version of the story states that he became suspicious that his wife had been having an affair, and hoping to catch her in the act, climbed the roof of their house to spy on her. However, due to weakened wood, the roof would give way beneath his weight, causing him to fall, leading to a fatal injury. However, the man's death must have taken some time, as the story says he was asked numerous times if he would repent of his sins, each time refusing before cursing his wife with his dying breath. Now, one of those things in ghost stories would normally be bad enough to cause supernatural problems, but when you put both together, things definitely get worse. Following the unpopular man's death, things seemed to return to normal, until a series of disastrous events began to unfold in the homes of the local peasants. Stories about some presence stalking the castle's grounds late at night began to circle through the local population. These rumors were soon followed by an outbreak of disease, during which many of the people of Alnwick died. As fear began to run through the local population, peasants began to barricade themselves in their homes, convinced that the shadowy figure that had taken up residence at the castle had been breaking into their homes and was behind the illness. Things would finally come to a head on Palm Sunday, when the local priest, convinced that the spirit of the hated man was to blame for the residents' misfortune since his passing, gathered together a party of the bravest residents and went to the castle to dig up the man's grave. As they began digging, however, they made a shocking discovery. The body of the man was not where it should be. It was in his grave, yes, but rather than being located at the customary depth, his remains were in fact almost at the surface, with a thin layer of soil covering him. To add to the mystery, the man's corpse had bloated to twice its size, and rather than being pale as one would expect, the color of his flesh was instead similar to what one expect of a living person. Convinced that some action had to be taken, a few of the crowd began to hack the body of the man, at which point fresh, warm blood began to flow from the remains. Another sign to the gathered crowd that something was off. To ensure they would be rid of the creature for good, the priest then ordered the body removed from the town, and that it be burned to ashes, finally bringing an end to the vampire of Alnwick. Reading this tale, images of more modern vampire stories, such as Bram Stoker's Dracula, come to mind, but it's important to remember one thing. This story dates to the 1100s, centuries before stories of what we would now consider a vampire. However, this story is not alone in the medieval era, as many tales of undead spirits and creatures haunting helpless peasants can be found in many places at the time, with William of Newbury himself writing of numerous other stories. Perhaps this is evidence that, much like us today, the people of the era were not only giving valuable moral lessons or seeking an explanation for their misfortunes, but perhaps they too enjoyed feeling a little fear every now and then. Something understandable, even today, especially at this time of the year. Happy Halloween. Thank thee ever so much, my friends, for joining me for this video. I want to apologize for my lack of videos recently posted here. I am planning on getting more involved here and have been working on several new projects, which hopefully should be starting to be uploaded very soon. And I would like to take this time once again to wish everyone a very happy and safe Halloween. And until we meet again, my friends, I bid thee farewell.